What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
No music, no intro. I apparently forgot my time zones for the first time. This evening, we were supposed to be recording at 8, and Ryan's texting me like, it's 8. Completely got lost in watching SummerSlam with my daughter. Another episode of #Saints Twitter podcast. We got Katherine Terrell of The Athletic joining us on this episode to just recap the first week of actual training camp. But before we get into that, I kind of want to say that I kind of want to pass the torch of Ryan being the most all-time flake and pass that to Kat.
Oh no! I knew this was going to come back up.
It was the first time was at Root. You were at the LSU Bama game, if my memory serves me correctly. You were supposed to meet. It was me, Nick, Ramon, Darth Saint. That's the one that Ryan also flaked on.
Wow. I barely remember that.
Because he, quote unquote, he was on call. And then the second time was when you came out here for a preseason game or something. So I think you take the crown of being the biggest flaker. Ryan's at least showed up, but I can't.
I showed up.
I can't say the same for Kat.
I am the worst. I actually was thinking about that literally 5 minutes ago. It was like, I bet that's going to come back up because I still feel kind of bad.
Surprise!
And I don't remember the Root thing, but if I was at the LSU Bama game, clearly I had good reason not to be there, but they probably lost that game, so maybe not.
They did. They for sure did.
Oh my God, that was probably the – sorry, what's that?
You should just learn from me. Like, I don't feel bad at all. Like, this is me. I am a flake. I'm going to let you know beforehand. If I show up, it's a surprise, and we can all enjoy it.
I like that perspective. I'm going to go with that. I bet, actually, now thinking back, if the LSU Bama game was in 2015, dinner would have been so much better. That was a horrible game, and I wish I had never gone.
It was I want to say it was 2014, because I was in town that year to watch the Saints play the Niners, and that was the game that went into overtime, and Cap hit Crabtree on like 4th and 10 way down the field or whatever. So the night before, it was the LSU Bama game, if memory serves correctly.
Oh yeah, that one also sucked, but not as bad as 15. I'm remembering it now.
So how do you okay. So how does it? We're not talking about the Saints, but how? If you could just walk us through, because obviously we have a lot of LSU fans listening to this podcast. How do you feel? Like, how was it for you for LSU winning the national championship?
It was obviously a dream season for an LSU fan. I guess it's weird because and the Saints fans know this well, when you have a team that doesn't win for a really long time and they finally win, it's like this kind of high you will never reach again, probably, unless the team doesn't win for another 50 years, God forbid. So for me, I was really young when LSU won the 2003 national championship, and that was just so incredible. And in 2007 was fun because it was a ridiculous season. But, it wasn't the same. This season, it's so weird because there was so little drama with the team except for the Bama game. They just kind of steamrolled through the whole season, which is unlike LSU. So when they got to the national championship, it was almost like, well, you expected them to win. So it was great. It's hard to describe now though because it feels like it was a million years ago, like another lifetime.
At least.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was this year.
Year.
I know. It's so crazy. Like that was the last time I was in the Superdome, and it's so weird because I think it was the last time. Yeah. That playoff game, I think, was before that.
Yeah, it was before that.
Okay. I can't even remember now. And so, of course, you're like, okay, well, I'll be back in the Dome in 6 months. And here we are on the night they should be in Pittsburgh, and they're not. So it's super weird. But, yeah, obviously a dream season. And, hey, if there's no college football, LSU would just have to be national champions again. So I'll take it.
Kat, I remember when you first started covering the Saints, you were kind of like a part of the new influx of youth into, the TimesPicayune.com family, covering the Saints. You communicated with the fans on Twitter. You get kind of involved with the fans to see what we're talking about. So what was that like as far as you covering the Saints? I don't think you grew up like a Saints fan or anything, but what was that like? What made you feel like you should get involved and kind of go back and forth with the fans and kind of follow what the Saints fans have going on? What made you take that approach to your profession?
Yeah, I didn't. The only reason I wasn't I'm not going to say I wasn't a Saints fan, but the only reason I wasn't like a really diehard Saints fan growing up is because I lived in Baton Rouge, so LSU kind of, takes over everyone there. And the Saints were just really bad. Like LSU was bad, but the Saints were worse. So
really
I know, so bad. And my dad, I think, had season tickets, but he never went, and then eventually got rid of them. So I never went to a Saints game until 2005 when they're in Tiger Stadium.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that was ridiculous. Like it was such a cluster. Like no one knew what gate to go in. No one paid attention to the game.
Was that the game where that they ran Benson out the stadium?
Yes, I think that was that game with the Lee Zurich, Tom Benson interaction.
Man.
It's funny. More people were watching this fight that happened in the stands than the actual game, but it was crazy. But I actually really started watching the Saints the next year in 2006. And it wasn't even because they ended up being good that year. It was kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I think we all wanted, because of everything that happened, I think we all wanted something good for the state and for the city. And I kind of just started watching the team, like really watching. And then that's kind of when everything changed. But as far as, social media and how I interact with the fans, I think I'm just that type of person. Like I really like talking to people. I like hearing fans' opinions. I love and hate Twitter. Sometimes it's the worst thing in the world, and y'all know that. But it's cool. It's cool to go back and forth with people that just, love their team so much. And fans have great insight, and they tell me things all the time that I never would have thought of and give me great story ideas. And it gets hard sometimes because sometimes you just want to take a step back because sometimes it can get really negative. More when I was in Cincinnati because the team was not good and they hate their team. So it got like and on game days, it got to be a lot. And I started thinking maybe I shouldn't be so involved on Twitter. Like, there's life outside of social media, but as long as you have a balance, it's all good. And hey, I'm always going to be that person. I love hearing what people have to say about their team and what's going on that week.
Speaking of your time covering the Bengals, you were covering the Saints and then you covered the Bengals. Was it 3 seasons or at least was it 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you came back. Like I guess first and foremost, like what was it like covering, a different team, different organization, you moving and then your decision to come back home. How was that for you as well?
Yeah, I didn't want to leave. Like, I was really happy in New Orleans. I mean, obviously, I grew up in Louisiana, as I said earlier. So I kind of told someone, oh, I could be happy here the rest of my life. But everyone knew it was the best opportunity. It's hard to turn down ESPN. And so I had never even stepped foot in Cincinnati in my life. First time I saw my apartment, I'd already signed a lease. Like, I didn't even know what it looked like. So I was really scared. Yeah. But the apartment was great. But it was so crazy just driving. I was driving 12 hours with my brother to Cincinnati the day Baton Rouge was flooding. And he was
Wow.
he was trying to
Oh, I
check on
remember
his
that.
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. Like, my family was fine, but he's sitting there trying to check on his wife, and like, it didn't get to their house, but it was slowly like coming towards their house because they live close to the levees. And so he had to, as soon as he dropped me off, he like turned around and got on a flight and flew back home. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, I'm here in this new city and my hometown is flooding and I don't know what to do. But it gave me such a great perspective on just how other teams operate and how to cover an AFC team versus an NFC team, and how to do it on your own. I'd always had Jeff and Larry and a bunch of people around me. It was the first time in my life I got to cover a team by myself. So it was a great experience. Everyone always looks at me surprised, but when I say this, but I loved Cincinnati. I was happy there, but this opportunity came around, and I just didn't want to miss it and miss being around my family and New Orleans and Louisiana.
Yeah.
So it was so great to just get a really great opportunity to work for an awesome place with the people I used to work with, cover a team I know. So I'm glad I did it, but I'm also really happy to be back in New Orleans, even if, we have two hurricanes heading our way.
Yeah, it's something. It's something because I moved away from New Orleans twice. And right now I'm living in Mobile, Alabama. But we cuss when we're living in New Orleans. We cuss New Orleans out. We cuss
Yes.
the political, the city hall. We cuss the infrastructure and all the problems that come, the crime, everything that comes with New Orleans. But it's like something's just always pulling you back. It's like, oh. I'm like, you can ask Adam, like, I'm back in New Orleans like every weekend. Like COVID-19, I'm
That
just going back just to grab a plate, a plate of something, see a friend or two, a family member, and I'm back on the highway. Like, I don't know. It's just weird.
that was me. It was crazy. I told someone, I'm like, I'm spending more time on a plane coming back to New Orleans than I am living in Cincinnati. I mean, I know that's an exaggeration, but like, I
Yeah.
had like so much FOMO. I would get on a plane, go to New Orleans or Louisiana for, I'm not even kidding, sometimes 18 hours, and then turn around and go back. Like, I do it for weddings, my high school graduation, flew in, not graduation, obviously, reunion. I'm a little older than that. Reunion, flew in, went to the reunion, went to sleep at 2 a.m., got back up at 4, flew back to Cincinnati, and then covered a game that day. I was just like, this is absurd. I can't spend my life on a plane like this. So moved back, and now I'm saving a little bit of money not being on planes 24/7, but I guess the entire world can say that because no one's going anywhere.
So being back, this is, how, with it being such a unique year with everything going on with the coronavirus, how has training camp been, or how has covering training camp been for you, to start off like the first week?
It's been, well, first of all, it's been great to have football to cover. I'm so grateful for that. It makes you almost feel like life is normal. It's obviously different. I mean, first of all, we get COVID tested every day before practice. Yeah. So I've had a swab stuck up my nose probably 8 times in the last week or so. But hey, whatever it takes. And then we have contact tracers. I'm actually going to write something about this
Oh,
next week.
wow.
Yeah, we have these like there's little like, they're proximity trackers, I guess is the term. So I put it in my lanyard that I wear around my neck, and if you get too close to people, it flashes. So you're supposed to be spaced out, and then of course there's no fans, and that's weird. But other than that, once you get through the gates and you're watching football, it feels probably 90% normal. So it's been cool to just be back and feel hopeful that the season's going to happen. And I do feel really hopeful, way more than I did even weeks or months ago. Like, I'm feeling very optimistic now.
Yeah, I'm more optimistic that like the season is definitely going to start and play for a little while. Like beyond that, it's just too much uncertainty in 2020 to predict beyond that. But just the way it's going, I can see that at least the season's going to start. We're going to get a couple of football games, and we'll kind of go from there. But with the Saints let's talk about training camp. I mean, from what we've seen, I know you've been covering it a lot with the Athletic. You've been, pretty much on it and what's going on. Sounds like the defense is a little ahead of the offense from what we've been, hearing on Twitter. So what's been kind of the, just above, a global view, what's been kind of your view of camp so far compared to other seasons?
Yeah, I think the defense definitely has a leg up right now, and sometimes early in camp that happens in general, but they've been making plays all over the field. I mean, it's kind of a new look defense, as Jared Cook kept calling it. I mean, and it is because you have Zach Baun. He's going to get a lot of playing time. Now CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to be playing as their main nickelback, which kind of means I don't know how much PJ is going to play. They might fit him in, but, he's kind of been replaced, or playing, kind of little hybrid safety positionless thing there. And I'm trying to go through them. Obviously no Eli Apple, so now Jenkins is taking over. So I won't say they're new faces on the defense really, but they've moved around a lot, and I think so far it's paying off results. I think the secondary is going to be Malcolm Jenkins. I think the secondary is going to be really good. And you can't always take stuff from practice just because you don't always know what the intent of practice was that day. But if I were a fan, I would be happy that the defense is the one that looks so good right now, because come September, whenever they play, 12th, I think, the offense is going to show up. You don't have to worry about that. So I would be I'm encouraged from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, that seems to be a growing trend. It's just how good the defense has been throughout, the early part of training camp. Flipping over to the offensive side of the ball, there's been a lot of publicity for Benny Fowler, who Drew Brees kind of personally brought in when he was working out with Emmanuel Sanders in Denver. I think maybe potentially saying he's maybe going to replace Traycon is going a little too far, but does it seem like he definitely could have a role on the team in the offense in terms of Brees' trust and rapport with him?
Yeah, he's one I go back and forth on. There are a couple of practices he kind of just disappears. But, like today, I think he probably had one of the best plays of the day when Jameis went deep to him. I don't know how far it traveled, 30, 40 yards downfield. I think someone said 50, but I couldn't tell you that. But he had this diving catch, and so that was good. He's also had some good plays on special teams. But I'm not ready to say he's going to make the team yet. However, I do think, as we see with Austin Carr, if Brees likes you, that is such a big thing in your favor. You could stick around for a long time if Brees and Peyton like you. And I think with this year, guys that have more film or just any sort of advantage as far as the team knowing what you're like and what you're going to do, is going to help so much with that last spot. I assume they probably go 5 receivers this year. I don't know. But, when you're someone like Fowler, who now Brees kind of has a rapport with, that's a leg up over, an undrafted guy. So
you saying Brees cheating on his bait? Austin Carr? Oh, man.
What if they both make the team?
Oh, please.
You're like, please, no more Austin Carr. I have him on my 53, just FYI.
You know what? Nothing. If you're using history as a trend, I mean, I can't blame you.
Yeah.
He has a lifetime contract, so.
Him and Craig Robinson. Just
Craig Robinson, him and C-Rob, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere either. He's been playing with the ones like a lot.
Yeah.
Demario hasn't really been playing much team at all. It's kind of weird, but I assume they're just trying to rest some of the guys that are like vitally important.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you're there, but it seems like they kind of want to take it easy on the vets. Like, Sean Payton always talks about how Purcell says you just got to see it with the vets. If you see it, you see it enough, whereas the young guys, you kind of want to get the reps in and make sure they got it. You know what I'm saying? So, that could be one of those situations.
Yeah, you would think that, but then they already know exactly what they have out of Craig Robertson.
Right,
So
that's true. That's true.
That's the only one I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. But
That's
think,
interesting.
Yeah. If you look at it from the perspective of, okay, who on the team can they not afford to lose? Well, Teron Armstead and Ramczyk, those two have been rotating out a lot. Demario, he hasn't been doing much team. Brees got a day off today. So, I think maybe they're just like, okay, these guys can't afford to lose. We know what we have. We don't need to see much from this kind of condensed training camp. Because he's out there. He's not – I mean, he does some teams, so he's not hurt.
Right.
So, who knows? They have some method behind the madness, as always, I'm sure.
Sticking with linebacker, a player that it seemed like the team was very high on last training camp before he got injured was Caden Ellis. And, he was getting some looks in the defense and base and kind of taking taking some of A.J. Klein's snaps away. And I know it's early in training camp, but I haven't read much about or seen much about him. How has he been in camp? And, is he, primarily, just staying with the twos?
Yeah, hold on. I'm looking through my notes right now because some of these guys, you try to take note of everyone, but it's kind of hard. And some of them just tend to disappear. So I wrote down everyone that was with the first and second team today, and he was with the twos. But I just don't remember the last 2 days, anything he's done to stand out. He's just kind of there. So I'm going to try to look for him this week, but that's sometimes good and sometimes bad. Means they're not making any major mistakes, but it also means, oh, hey, they're not really standing out at all. But sometimes we do tend to keep our eyes more on what's happening with the first team than the second team. So that's also probably part of it.
And, it's interesting that you bring that up because with no it was kind of easy to find the one or two guys that, that was really standing out or really was shining during the preseason game. Like last year, there was Shy Tuttle. He was really coming on the third preseason game. He was like, oh, okay, this guy is showing something. And it's just impossible to have that now with no preseason games. Maybe when they do live scrimmages, maybe we'll see more. But, the 53-man roster predictions in late August are going to be a little tougher,
Yeah, I actually just wrote about that a few hours ago. Just some of these guys really need preseason games, and it's going to be hard for them to make the team without it. I think Callaway is a perfect example of that. I think he is a really raw player, and I say that because more so than others, I see coaches take him aside to work through something. And another reporter pointed out that's actually a good sign because it means they're very invested in him and actually care. If they didn't care, they would just write him off. But, he's a guy that probably needs a preseason game to show off what he can do in special teams and maybe make some big plays. And it's hard when you don't have much to go off of. You just have these practices where you basically have to be perfect to secure your spot.
Special teams is so critical in preseason because like you said, that's how those guys make the teams, and they compete so hard on special teams in the preseason, playing gunner and all the different positions on special teams, just trying to show something. And usually that's where the action happens during preseason. That's why you see so many punt returns, kick returns, big hits, because those guys are competing. You know what I'm saying? They want to shine on tape on Monday when they put the tape on. Hey, look what I did. So that's a good point. I don't know. I mean, I guess the Saints are kind of fortunate. It's a more veteran team, but still, there's going to be some cause to not have a preseason, even though we kind of understand they didn't have preseason for a good reason.
Yeah, they've been working a lot through special teams for that reason. They do a significant amount of work with special teams every day. You know, a lot of punt return, coverage work, and things like that. And I think it's just they're trying to find what they can't find without preseason games. So you can kind of replicate it, but kind of not. I mean, it's not full speed. It's not against someone you don't know. So the scrimmage is as close as you're going to get. So I think they're scrimmaging in the Dome on Friday. It might be Thursday, but I think it's on Friday. So that's as close as you're going to get to any sort of live game situation, and it's still not the same thing.
Speaking of a player like Callaway, at the top of your head, do you know what the specific like restrictions are or protections when it comes to like practice squad players and like players can be protected because of the season being the way that it is?
Well, I know that I think they're going to 16 guys, and a couple of those guys can be literally anyone. Like you could put veterans on there. There's, I don't know how many spots, but so anyone can be in those couple spots because of COVID. But as far as I know, it's still the same as it always was in regards to training camp cuts. Like they have to go through waivers. Once they get on the practice squad, then you can activate them to the active roster without losing them. And I think you can do that twice for each player. But yeah, so they still have to face that big training camp cut waiver wire madness. And that's why teams all over the league are freaking out about what media members write about their players, because they don't have any game film. So that's all they have to go on. And so that's why they're all running around like in a panic about what's getting out there about these players, because they don't want to lose some of them. But I say to that, well, then keep them on your 53. Like, sorry, that's the chance you take.
A player that keeps flashing offensively is Ty Montgomery, and I know when he was first signed, Ryan and I just thought like, oh, like cool, like that's a nice little piece, like, you know, he'll have like his niche in the offense and what have you. But it sounds like he is like kind of showing out in training camp, and no disrespect to the former offensive coordinators and head coaches that happened in the past, but I can probably safely say he's never had an offensive coach like Sean Payton to potentially be able to unlock his talents. Do you like when you see him, do you see like the role that he could have on offense?
I guess I'm a little more cautious than everyone else, just because I remember some of the other guys, remember when everyone thought TJ Spiller was going to be the big thing, and then the cadet experiment that never worked out. And Montgomery's a better player than Cadet. I'm not comparing the two. But so I say that just because I didn't put him on my 53 the first time, just because I said, hey, this guy, even though he's a name, he's got to prove it in camp like everyone else. Well, I think he's pretty much doing everything he has been asked to do to prove it in camp. And I can see Peyton really using this guy in multiple ways. I mean, imagine, figuring out how to use him and Kamara and Murray all together. And I can see it. I think Dwayne Washington's probably going to make the roster too, more based on a special team. So they'll probably have to carry a few more running backs. But yeah, I mean, it's something that kind of develops a little more every day. But I'm way more intrigued by him now than I was a few weeks ago, because every day it's like, oh, 88 just made another play. And when they were working on they did a lot of run work today, and they're working on a lot of 2-point conversions and red zone work. And I wrote down his name a couple of times. So, yeah, he definitely keeps showing up.
And in the Athletic, you did an article about Sheldon Rankins, who, this is like, his most important season. He's on his 5th-year option, could be a free agent next year, coming off a ridiculous injury and a repair to a deformed bone in his Achilles or something like that. I mean, huge. And, for what we've heard from camp, it seemed like, he's looking healthy. He's moving well. I saw the interview with Ryan Nielsen, the D-line coach. He seems to be positive about where Sheldon Rankins is right now. So, what have you seen from Rankins? Because, this is it for him. He could really cash in if he shows any, 90% of what he was in 2018. He could really cash in.
I think so far, I think he's looked really good. As much as you can evaluate that when they don't have pads on every day. But I think the main thing for him is, can he get his explosiveness back? I mean, when you have heel problems on both sides and you weigh whatever he weighs, 300 pounds or whatnot, can he have that same burst? And he seems to think that he can. I think it's such a shame that he blew through rehab last year, came back faster than anyone expected, and finally he looks like he was starting to be that old player who was in the Atlanta game, and he was, he had sacks and he was setting up sacks for Cam Jordan. And I remember in the locker room afterwards, they were just so excited, and he just seemed so relieved, like, hey, I'm finally back. And then 10 days later, I had no idea how much that heel was bothering him. 10 days later, that's when he realized he needed season-ending surgery. Wow. So if it's not bothering him this year, I see no reason why this far out from his Achilles injury, he can't be the player he used to be. It doesn't always happen, but if I know Rankins, I know he's going to work hard, just as hard as anyone else to get there. Also, side note, I know y'all saw this interview, but he just casually talks about how he deadlifts 700 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, if he's doing that, hey, I think he has a chance to be okay. He just said it casually. Yeah, just doing 700-pound deadlifts or a couple reps.
A couple reps.
Yeah.
Not once.
Not one.
Yeah.
He said go to the ice tub.
I'm sure he's just no big deal for him. So he's a guy you really honestly want to see succeed.
He is.
It's hard not to root for him,
Right. I've never gotten the sense that he wasn't a hard worker, and for him to come back last year off that injury the way he did, that was great. I was kind of like, man, don't you want to take a couple of more weeks? Relax,
right?
But him getting that bone injury, that bone deformation taken care of, whatever. Hopefully that'll work for him. The another guy that's, everybody's kind of looking side-eyed about his old two firsts. Marcus Davenport. We understand he has shown plenty of potential. Plenty. Nobody's going to deny that. But, it's his third year. Everybody wants to see it. See it. Show up consistently throughout the season. Show us what you got. Has he caught your eye at least once or twice during the training camp?
There was a day, I think, again, days have no meaning anymore, but I think it was yesterday. It could have been 2 days ago. They were outside in pads. I remember that. And I was specifically watching the defensive line, and I felt like Davenport was next to the quarterback a lot. And actually Rankins too. I just noticed they were getting a lot of pressure. And it's enough that sometimes you forget, he's coming off an injury, because I forget about that all the time. I mean, which is a great sign. But, it's just like you said, okay, well, can do it in practice, but you got to show up this year. It has to be the year. So he was starting to get there, but I feel like I say that about a lot of people last year, and then they got injured. But yeah, there have been a few days. I really do think that he has looked impressive. I'm literally looking through my notebook trying to find those particular plays. I have 7 pages of notes for each practice. It's kind of ridiculous.
I did see where he held some running back up. I don't know.
Yeah,
kind of picked him up or something.
I think it was Ty Montgomery. I think he just picked him up like he was
just disrespectful.
Wait, this was okay. Sorry, I just finally found it. I had sack and the 98, 92 written next to it. So I think that was one of the plays on I guess Brees was in there where they both got pressure. So, and then I wrote 92 2 more times. So yeah, like stop rambling. Yes, a couple of times he has had some big days, but he's just got to be more consistent about it.
Switching over to the offensive side of the ball and the offensive line, the strength of this team, especially offensively, is undoubtedly its offensive line. It seems like starting early in camp, McCoy has kind of stayed at center, and Ruiz has been at right guard. And then obviously you have the Andres Pete injury, so he hasn't been playing for the broken thumb, I believe it was. I kind of postulated earlier in the season or earlier in the offseason is that with a very shortened training camp, no preseason games, like that, the center to quarterback exchange is so vital that I would have been shocked to, I know Ruiz got some snaps at center today, but I still think, for at least this season, I think it's going to be McCoy at center and Ruiz at right guard. How has that looked, I guess, just the offensive line in general? I know it's been hard to see because some guys have been out, the tackles are getting off days, but just when all five of them are in, or four, I guess, in this case, like how has it looked?
I think it made a huge difference when both starting tackles were in. The day before, they got off to a really bad start. I think Brees threw like 3 straight incompletions or something. It weren't looking great. And when they started team drills the other day or maybe yesterday, and Ramczyk and Tehran were both in, like it was just like bang, bang, bang. Like Brees like fired off 3 completions. You can just see the difference it makes. So offense has had its ups and downs this week, but I haven't really, aside from a few plays here or there, haven't really noticed anything that stands out as bad with the first team offensive line. And, when you get these rookie centers, like you said, it can be kind of a toss up. He actually did play center today. He's been playing right guard the whole week, but he did play center today. But when I covered Billy Price with the Bengals a year or two ago, oh my God, he was firing off just one bad snap after another. And this is a guy that played center in college. And just for some reason, the first 2 weeks of camp, it was atrocious. This hasn't looked like that. Ruiz had one bad snap today, and I think that may have been on Taysom. We couldn't really tell. But overall, I think they look good. But my guess is that Ruiz is going to play guard. I just think McCoy was at center for a whole week. You don't have much time left really to tinker with this experiment. So whatever decision you make, you're going to have to make it in the next few days. You can't have this rookie rotating back and forth up until week 1. So we'll see. I might be wrong, but that's kind of my impression of it.
Interesting. And, since we're on offense, it sounds like from everything we've heard, Kamara is back to, his healthy self. Sounds like he's moving well. He's in good spirits. And, from the highlights I've seen, he's, getting downfield and showing everything he's shown in the past. So is that something you were seeing also?
Yeah, I think he's looked great. And I also think he's just tired of people asking him about being injured.
Yeah, I know.
I could tell just from his interview the other day. I was actually driving when I was listening to it, so I don't think I asked him anything. But someone asked him about his health, and he's just like, "I'm healthy," or so. I don't know, maybe laugh. I mean, I get it. I would be sick of it too because he looks good. I think if he stays healthy, he's gonna have a great year. He has no reason not to. So everything I've seen has been good so far. So I guess fingers crossed that it stays that way. Knock on wood. But yeah, he's looked good.
So I feel like since you're on the podcast, I wouldn't be doing a good job if I didn't ask you these things because you covered the Bengals. So was there any closeness of either an AJ Green trade or a Tyler Eifert trade happening? And was some of that did either one of them happen just because like the team being the Browns, they were just like, no, like we're not trading our players type of thing, and then just being the Browns pretty much, or talking about the Browns,
the Bengals.
They run together.
Yeah. You're making me laugh. No, I mean, from what I remember, I was texting people about that day. I mean, I was checking in on that all week, and everything I was told was no, 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 no. They don't want to trade him. They're not going to talk about it. They don't want to trade him. And when the Bengals don't want to trade someone, they don't want to trade him. Nothing.
Period.
Yeah, nothing will change their mind. They don't even entertain it. So that never came close to happening, as far as I know, unless I was just lied to. But I just heard. I heard. I'm trying to remember. I heard. Yeah, definitely no with that one. I think Eifert definitely no. Didn't definitely no trade came close to happening. I think there was some, intrigue there, but they were scared because of the injury history. And honestly, Eifert disappeared last year, and I don't know if that means he's a declining player or if it was because the Bengals didn't use tight ends very often, but he kind of just disappeared. So maybe it's for the best. But I kept thinking, I'm like, man, old Eifert, pre-injury Eifert in the Saints offense would have been something to see. I would have loved to see that. But
absolutely.
So I'm reading through my old text about this while I'm talking to make sure I'm telling you all the right thing, because it feels like so long ago. I just know they didn't want to trade him.
Because the Saints, we were tweaking. Saints fans was tweaking for a wide receiver.
I know.
Opposite of Mike Thomas, but he got Emmanuel Sanders this year, and from what we've heard from out camp, he's not blowing it away, but he's a veteran. He's doing everything that's asked of him. He's running routes well, catching passes. What's been your sense of Emmanuel Sanders so far?
I think he's going to fit in so well to this offense. I just think this offense has been dying for anyone to step up behind Michael Thomas. And when you look at last year's stats, and you have to go, you look at Thomas, and then when you're talking about, I think, receiving yards, you have to go past two tight ends and a running back before you get to the next receiver. Ted Ginn. And man, that's ridiculous. So I just think if Sanders, I always say, I'm like, if he plays on the same level he's been playing, and you don't see an age decline, he's going to do big things for this offense. As soon as he and Brees get that chemistry down, and I mean, he's been involved early and often with this offense, so I can see him playing a really big role this year.
I feel like this is the year for the Saints. This is all the chips are in, hands on deck. This is our year. If a whole season happens and there's playoffs and all that, I feel like potentially the mindset is this is it. Potentially this is Drew's last year, all that, what have you. I can't stop thinking that potentially the coaching staff and Sean Payton may kind of see if this is our year, we need that one more piece. And not saying that there's any talk or anything like that, but could you see them going after a player like Jadeveon Clowney to kind of complete everything, for lack of better word?
I think they would love to have Clowney just like any other team. Their problem is he's been holding firm to his price, and that's been the story all summer. I mean, I don't know where that stands now, but I know that at some point in the summer he wanted over $17 million a year, and that's not going to happen. Not with this team, especially if they're working on things with Kamara. So it doesn't mean they don't want him, but I think he's just going to have to really lower that price. And then at that point, do other teams jump in? I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued that he's still out there, but he could make a difference. You know what type of player he is, but the closer it gets to the season, is that something they would even entertain if we're talking a week before the season? Maybe. Sometimes they go do that. It's just weird with the pandemic and everything, and players aren't probably going to move around as much as they may have before. And then you see the opposite. Some of these players are just hanging out there. Like Drake Kirkpatrick just signed with the Cardinals, and he used to be a pretty decent player, and that was just the quietest signing ever. Like, it's just so weird.
Yeah.
And then you got Ryan still out there. You got Clowney still out there. Griffin was out there forever. Now Earl Thomas is about to be out there for different reasons. But, yeah, it's just an odd year, and I just wonder if they're going to be more cautious about disrupting team chemistry because, like you said, when you're looking at a season where everyone is thinking, hey, we're all in, this could be our year, you really have to trust that everyone's going to do what they say they're going to do, especially in regards to this pandemic. So when you're already building up that trust with all these guys, you probably get a little cautious about who you bring in. And I say that solely like pandemic-wise, you just don't want anyone to go out there and do anything dumb. And with these veterans, you know that's not going to happen. You know Cam Jordan's not going to go put himself at risk, and you know Drew Brees isn't going to do that. Drew Brees probably has like a bubble built at his house. Demario Davis isn't going to do that. So it makes it the Saints have a better chance than a lot of other teams because they all understand what is at stake and what they could do if they all I don't know. I don't know how to say it. If they all, I guess, follow the rules. That's such a dumb thing. That sounds like high school. I feel like I'm rambling, but y'all get what I'm saying. Not every team is going to have that. Some team eventually is going to have some guy, just like in baseball, that ruins it for everyone else.
Exactly. It's going to happen. We just kind of hoping the Saints have kind of, I hate to say pick the right guys, because even when you say pick the right guys, you're asking people to deny their humanity pretty much.
Right.
At some point you're just like, I'm about to go and hang out with my folks and have a beer. Something like that. It's just going to happen. And, you just kind of hope it doesn't work out the wrong way, because at the end of the day, we're humans, we make mistakes, and, we're not built to, fight a hidden enemy like COVID-19. But I wanted to ask you, we had Ramon on a couple of months ago, and anytime we get a beat writer on or a former beat writer, we want some stories. Like, hit us with some stories. Like, you was in West Virginia, you know what I'm saying? You was in West Virginia in a nice lukewarm weather. You was running with the team during the whole 79 fiasco. Like, give us one story. I know it was Sean Payton crazy. He might call you up, curse me out or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, just gotta think. Give me something. Something you couldn't tweet out.
What did Ramon tell you? What was his? Because I'm curious about what he said.
He punked out. I'll just say that. Ramon punked out. He can listen to this, and I'll tell him, Ramon, you punked out, bro.
We'll tell you the story that he told us offline, because he didn't want to tell it on
I think I know what story you're talking about. That's why I asked.
It involved a phone call. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I was asking. I was curious if he told that story on the air.
No, not on the air.
But he basically told us about the time. He quoted Kenneth Vaccaro. Yeah.
Oh no.
Kenneth Vaccaro, and it kind of came out wrong, and it pissed off Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins went to the Eagles. It was like a mess, but it got smoothed out,
Poor Ramon. I was not in the locker room that day. I was working on something. It was the first day all season I wasn't in the locker room. I was in the media room. And I'm like, you're just like, oh, nothing's going to happen. And then everyone comes back and everyone's just, oh my gosh, did you hear what happened? Kenny Vaccaro was reading Ramon's tweets in the bathroom and came out in a towel. And was like,
he said what?
I was like, what? I missed this? I hate missing out on things. I was so mad. I'm like, I didn't get to see all this go down. Oh my God. I'm trying to think. I'm cycling through the things in my head, like all the Browner and Lions yelling stuff. That was all crazy.
Yeah.
I do remember, I'm trying to think. I remember actually, I do remember a fairly good Kenny Vaccaro story where he was hurt. No, he was before a game. He was hurt, and it was very unexpected. And I think it was a hamstring thing. I think they were playing Tampa, and he doesn't play. And so at first we didn't know why. So I think Larry said something like, oh, he might have been benched, which I think he did get benched later that season or the next year. Don't remember. And so then we found out, oh, he's hurt. So in the locker room afterwards, Vaccaro, he's just like really mad at Larry. And like, I'm standing there and I'm like going to one and going to the other, like, okay, can you just go talk to him? Can you just go talk to him? And both are just like, I don't want to talk to him. I'm like, how old are you guys? And Vaccaro finally, like, Larry goes up to Vaccaro and I explain everything. And he's like, it's okay, man. You just really hurt my feelings when you said that I was going to be benched. I was like, what? How old is everyone in this locker room right now? It was very funny. Vaccaro is actually really cool, though. I always liked him, but
he always provided like great quotes.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, Keanu Lewis was the same way.
Oh my God,
he'd just get like really sensitive about stuff and then get upset, but it was always me who was standing there like trying to like ease the tension between like secondary and the beat writers. I'd be like, well, he didn't mean it this way. I don't think that's what he meant. And it just always made me laugh. But yeah, man, there's been some crazy moments. Just watching all the Browner and Lion stuff was top-notch entertainment.
Poor cat. You can go ahead, Adam. You had something for her?
I think a player that I keep there's two players I keep forgetting that are on the team. Zach Baun and Latavius Murray. Like I forget that they drafted Zach Baun, and like until I read Latavius Murray's name, I'm like, oh yeah, he's a Saint. he exists. So I guess what are some? I mean, we know what the situation is going to be for Murray. I think for the most part. But what is the vision for Zach Baun on the defense in terms of like where is he playing? What's his usage? Is he going to be off ball linebacker? Is he going to be primarily rushing? Like how is Dennis Allen gonna use him?
This is the time where I add that you thought Nigel Bradham was Zach Baun like a day ago.
Yes, I did. Yeah, completely.
Which made me laugh. You're like, he's bigger than I thought he was.
But he still is though. Like I saw him. Like I actually saw him today, and he for sure is still bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah, I think we talked to Michael Hodges a couple of days ago, and I think he said he sees him as a Sam linebacker who eventually will transition to middle linebacker. I noticed him rushing a lot. They use him both as a traditional linebacker, and they do rush him a lot. I think he said he rushes more primarily when they're in nickel, and then in base he plays a lot of Sam. But the way he's been used in practice, I think he's going to be playing like day one. I expect him to be playing a lot. Him, Anzalone, and DeMario, because Kiko's still working back from his injury. I don't know when he's going to be back. And I think they like Baun a lot, and they're kind of thinking, all right, well, we're going to throw you into the fire and see how you do. And I think he's done well so far. So we expect to see him a lot early on when the season starts.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, me and Adam, when we watched him as a prospect, we both were like,
Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, sorry. Okay, somehow my computer got muted. I told you, audio problems every day.
Hopefully
you heard me.
I got you, Kat. We're good.
Okay. I muted y'all. Somehow. I clearly need to get more wine or coffee or something.
Oh, wine. Okay. Well, but I was saying, me and Adam weren't like overly excited about Baun, but you could still see the potential and what the kind of Saints would kind of like out of him. And, when he first got drafted, it was like, hey, we're going to move him to Mike. He was like, huh? But hearing that he's kind of he's been rushing a lot. That kind of makes sense because he did come off kind of like a slightly poor man's Anthony Barr with the Vikings, who could kind of play that kind of off-ball linebacker role and also edge rusher.
They kind of look alike too.
They look alike too, right? Like, is that bias? There could be some what's the class you're taking at work? Involuntary bias or whatever.
Implicit bias.
Who was on Twitter today talking about Baun's hairline and how he looked?
Oh, that was me. That was
shocking. Like, poor guy.
He's 23. Just let it go, bro. Like, just
let it go.
At least he doesn't look. I think Nick Alston. I think Nick Easton looks like the oldest guy on the team. He looks like he's 50.
How about Drew? Like Drew. Like at first, I saw a pic of him earlier this summer. I was like, okay, he got the air plugs, fresh lineup. But then I see him at camp. It's woof. He looking like a 40-year-old quarterback, man.
Oh my God! At least he understands. Like he needs to let the hair go. Slowly,
he said it. Yeah.
Slowly, he's letting it go. It's taken little by little over the years. I think he just can't let the last remaining.
I understand.
Hairline go. I understand, Drew. Maybe I mean, he could maybe invest in some hair plugs, like people theorize that Tom Brady did.
Yeah. Oh, we know.
Come on, Tom. Let's be real. I was just saying, like Zach's 23. Like this is a no judgment zone, no judgment podcast. But come on, just let it go, bro. Like it's all good. When he's making plays on the field, the hairline will be. I'm letting that go completely.
Oh man, You just reminded me of another story as to why one of those fights in the Saints locker room happened in 2014.
Set it off. Let's go.
You gotta tell it. You can't tease it.
Look, we curse on here and everything.
It had to do with one of the players in the locker room had gotten his hair like spray. Sorry, I'm not a guy, so I don't really know what they do, but like spray painted or sprayed. I don't know. He had just gotten it done, and so another player licked his thumb, came up to him, and just like went straight down his forehead with his thumb and ruined his hair, his new hair, and the player got real mad, and they just started like going at it in the locker room and fighting, and it apparently just went all the way. It just like turned into this big brawl, and I think that was the fight Mark Ingram has talked about on NFL Network, where he was like, I just walked in and there's these guys in towels just like going at each other or fighting. And I had no idea what happened. And from what I was told, it had to do with one immature player just deciding to mess up someone else's hairline. Sorry for the tangent. It's just every time I think about that story, I laugh. And talking about Brees' hairline made me think about it.
We love it. And look,
2014, man.
Oh, I mean, I want to ask you, like, what was your whole view of the whole Junior Gillette, like,
man,
off the team and going off on a rant in someone else's account?
Oh man,
just spilling the beans. Like, did you see that coming? Like, did you see that coming as a beat writer? Like, did you they should have known this was coming?
No,
shocked.
No, he was so great to talk to in the fall of that year. He was so eager to be where he was and so happy. And the day he got his new contract, we were like excited for him because he was so, he was this great story and he was so excited. And once he got arrested, it became like a ticking time bomb, basically. I think he just got like crazier. I mean, all the crazy stuff from the team's perspective in the fall, and we didn't see all that. We found out about it, obviously, but once he got arrested and the Saints decided to cut him, which happened very early that year, they were like, "We're done. We're going to figure out how to get this guy off the team." I think it was like they were done by February. they just couldn't make it happen for a long time. And so just one thing after another. And I don't think he really knew that I don't think he had any idea they were going to cut him. So once that happened, he just kind of went crazy. And he had good relationships with us in the fall. And then he hated all of us except Lions, I think, in the end. He really,
people.
Yeah, he really, yeah. Yeah. He really hated me. He texted me one day at training camp because I retweeted something. I was at practice. I retweeted something. He had gotten signed or he was by that time he was with Washington. I don't know if he got signed or suspended or what. And I retweeted it. He texted me and he was like, "Why are you so obsessed with me?" I was like, "Well, man, you texted me." Actually, I did not say that. And one of the other reporters was like, "I swear to God, if you respond to him, I will throw your phone away." Because that's just what he was just, he's junior.
Yeah.
He's junior.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, but did not expect it to end how that ended, especially with him going somewhere else and getting hurt. That was crazy. But, that was the craziest year I've ever covered, I think.
What?
Just flat out, yeah.
What's your feel for the team this season? Like, I mean, you're kind of around them. Like, I don't know, what sense do you get from them being around them in the number of days you've been around them so far?
I think I think this team has as good a chance as any other team to make the playoffs. What they do in the playoffs, I do not know, but I just think there's no excuses, and that's how they feel. That's why they keep saying Super Bowl or bust. When you look at the team, they've all been together forever. The coaches have been together forever. They added the receiver they desperately needed. They've tried to upgrade the secondary. They've tried to address pretty much every hole they felt they had. I think they did something to make it better. Now, maybe it won't. You never know. You don't know how Ruiz is going to play. You don't know if Baun is going to be good with their history of drafting linebackers and things like that. But this team has a really good chance. They, I think, have the ability to be a really great team. And at this point, you just have to hope the season just goes on uninterrupted, because I don't know. I mean, it'd be such a shame if this really is Drew Brees' last year and somehow it ends in like a weird canceled season or something. I don't know. It's weird enough that we don't get to see the fans in month one. Let's hope maybe best case scenario that season goes on as scheduled and fans get to come back at some point this year, because I think this team is going to be really good.
Yeah, amen on that. And I guess my last question, you know what? You don't have to get into it if you don't want to, but just something I'm curious about. We had this whole fiasco report come out about the Washington football team a few weeks ago, about the plethora of, sexual assault allegations, women that work for the team dealing with, unwanted, interactions with people, and, and a lot of female women, females that are involved with the NFL, whether reporters or with teams, came out saying, all the stuff that they have to deal with. And I was just curious, from your perspective, being where you are as a beat writer, how has that been for you? Is that something you think the NFL needs to take a little more seriously? Do we all need to take it more seriously? Is that something that kind of is something you just, when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I'm going to have to deal with this, that, and the other, but I'm going to keep going. Is it like that? Or, what's that experience been like for you?
Oh, I was not expecting that question, but it's a great question. He threw me a curveball.
We talk about everything on here. So.
This is hard hitting journalism on this podcast. We go a wide range.
Man, no, I can tell. We went from Junior Galette to talking about
women in the NFL. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm here for it. Look, I will say, when it comes to the actual locker room setting. I've been covering the NFL for 12, I was about to say 12 years, since 2012. In the locker room, I've never had a player treat me as anything other than a reporter. When I say that, like, yeah, if a player's mad, I've had players mad at me. I've had players not want to talk to me. I've had players pissed at all of us, but that's fine. Just if you're pissed at one of us, then if you're mad at me because you're irritated with something I did as a just general reporter, like, that's cool because you're treating me the same as you treat anyone else. And so I feel lucky in that aspect that, I've never had a problem going into the locker room, because I'm in the locker room, or used to be, 5 days a week. 5 days a week, 17, 18, 19 weeks out of the year, more than that. I mean, that's a lot of time you spend there, and you get to know the players as human beings, which why is one of the reasons I do kind of advocate for that setting, because it's so much better than just doing these conversations on Zoom when everyone's listening and you can't banter about stuff. But the other part of your question is that there are a lot of things that women face as sports reporters that we don't talk about. And it's just kind of keep your head up or chin up, and you just keep going, because number one, we never want to be the story. I think almost all reporters will say that. Some won't say that, but those generally aren't very respected reporters when they try to make
Lions.
Not naming any names.
Oh, we name names on here, but it's okay. You can continue.
I'm not naming any names. I'm just saying some people act like that. Man, now you just made me lose my train of thought. Also, because when people do come out and go public with incidents, then usually when you look at social media, a lot of times they're either not believed, or they thought they made it up, or you want to exist in this world, this weird world like everyone else, and do your job like everyone else. And I can tell you, every single female reporter I know in the NFL has some story of something that happened that we just kind of just don't say anything. And it's not just the NFL, it's just kind of the sports world in general. I mean, I don't know if y'all saw the story from my friend Joan Neeson when she was talking about how Darius Geis threatened her when she was trying to do a story about him. Well,
I read that.
Yeah, I knew about that when it happened. So that was 3 years ago. The reason we don't, and people will say, well, why didn't you say anything? Well, first of all,
it wasn't your story. Yeah, it's kind of like, is it like it's not your story to tell type of thing?
Well, yeah, but I meant for like her, they're, well, why didn't you say anything when it happened? Because you try to say, okay, well, maybe this player doesn't like me doing a story about his family. Maybe he's having a really bad day. Maybe he just has a temper, we all have our stuff. I'm just going to let it go, because why would I make a big incident about that? And this is saying that because you don't know anything else that's going on in that player's life. It's kind of the thing with Junior. You think that you know a player, and you don't. You know what they present to the media and to the public eye, but you don't know them. Right. And I'd say that's true for almost any player. After all the stuff with Junior, I always made sure to say, I think this player is a nice guy, or I think he's like this. I think, because we don't know. I mean, even I'm throwing out names, and I'm not comparing any of them, but even Darren Sharper, not only fooled media members, but the people around him every day. Yeah, so you don't always know. So we try not to make one incident, into a big thing. Like, if a player's angry at me, okay, well, that's just the business. But so there's a lot of stuff we don't say because we don't want to jeopardize any part of our career. And I think it's good it's being talked about more, but I don't know. I think as far as what the NFL can do, I don't know when it comes to specific stuff like what happened with the Washington team. That was, a deep-rooted problem in an organization that's part of the league. I don't know what you would do as far as reporters that have incidents, but they're not affiliated with the team. I don't know how you fix that. I mean, because I don't know.
Because it's like a balance, because you want your reporters to get deep access and and build rapport with players and team members and stuff like that. But at the same time, you want them to feel protected and safe, just safe, like any other person expects to be. You know what I'm saying? Just like you said, with it's like you just really don't know with a lot of these people, and we can really understand it as black men in America, when you're trying to explain yourself and say, hey, I dealt with this. This is the problem I dealt with. And people are like, oh, well, maybe it was this. Well, maybe he just thought you looked at shady with a hoodie on, or maybe. And it's like, I'm trying to explain my experience to you, but nobody wants to hear it. So, that connects with a lot of, all of us in America, are dealing with certain things, whether it's being a woman, being black, being Hispanic, being, lesbian, gay, trans, whatever, everybody's dealing with something, and, but I just wanted to kind of shed that light, since you were the first female guest we had. I just want to kind of talk about that.
No, I didn't know that. I was the first female reporter you've had on. I feel good.
Breaking barriers.
But no, you're so right. It's I'm glad you brought it up. I keep a lot of this stuff to myself. Like I'm always, if stuff happens, I don't want the world at large to know about it, and I'm not the only one. And I always joke, one day, if I ever quit this job, I'm just gonna write a book. But anyone could say that. It's just, I don't know. You just keep your head down. You just keep going. But I love this job, and the good outweighs the bad by so much. And I've built so many great relationships with so many awesome people that I never would have known or met or had the chance to know otherwise. And I don't know, there's something very cool about that this sport brings us all together. And I don't know, it's pretty cool. I love it. I wouldn't do anything else.
So what would, I'll leave on this note to anyone who's like listening to the podcast, whether you're female or just, you love sports and you want to get into journalism, like what advice would you give to someone who like that's their passion and they want to make this their career?
Ooh. Tough, because even in my 8 years or so of doing this, or 10 years, things have changed so much. I would say, I'm thinking, the way I'll quickly sum up how I guess things happen for me. I just tried to get my name out there as much as I can. I got involved as much as I can. When I was in college, I worked for the college newspaper at LSU. I spent every Friday night in the fall driving an hour to New Orleans to cover random high school football games. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever covered at the time, because I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought, if I just keep doing this, they'll see how committed I am to it, and maybe they'll see something in me. And I actually got my first internship because when I was a sophomore in college, they had sign-up sheets for newspapers to come in and interview the students that worked in student media. And I went and interviewed, even though I knew I wouldn't get it, or thought I wouldn't. And I was like, well, you know what? They'll just know my name, and maybe next year I'll get it. Well, I actually ended up getting the Times-Picayune internship covering LSU football that year. And I found out years later by the guy that became my boss that I did not nail that interview. He said my interview sucked, but I was like, thanks, great. He's like, you were nervous, and I'm like, well, of course I was nervous. And you're sitting here throwing questions at me I can't answer. He said, well, we knew you could write, so we gave you a shot anyway. And same guy next year gave me a shot. or 2 years later, gave me a shot when the Times-Picayune started hiring people, and I just always said yes to everything, and I could cover weird sports like horse racing and double as a football writer.
Don't sleep on your horse racing coverage.
Yeah, that got me my job. Yeah, it got me my job because I could cover horse racing.
So, do you actually like horse racing? Like, or is that just, oh, okay.
No, I do.
Okay.
It's so random, but that was why I got my job. They did not want to hire a full-time horse racing writer anymore. I could cover football too, so they had me do that. And
so you were like the Taysom.
Yeah. Yes, that's like 1/20th as talented as like the Taysom light. But they promoted me a year later to Saints beat writer, which is so funny thinking back because when they hired me for the paper, they wanted me to be a general sports writer, and I said, well, maybe the LSU job, and they said, no, you're not going to get that. He said, also, don't bother applying for the Saints job. You definitely wouldn't get that. At the time, I'm 22. I'm like, of course I wouldn't get the Saints job. I'm 22 years old. Like, I'm not even thinking about that. And a year later, I had that job. So life is very unexpected in how it turns and gets you places to where you never thought you'd be. But yeah, just say yes to everything. Put your name out there as much as you can because networking means everything in this business, and just keep writing. Even if you start your own website to do it, just somehow get your name out there. And it's hard these days, but it's also a lot of opportunity available because things are changing so much in this business every day that what didn't work last year might work now. But I guess that's all I got. But I'm on Twitter all the time, so if people ever want my advice, send me a tweet. I guess I'll probably see it. I don't know if they do, but.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Kat. It was a great conversation, and
it was.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, we do okay. But no, truly, thank you for coming. I mean, I've known you going 6-7 years, which is kind of like known in a general term. But still, that's just what the Saints can do for its fans, and having a connection with beat reporters and writers. I think it's truly a connection unlike any other fan base has in any other type of sport. So thanks. You can follow Kat on Twitter. Is it at Katherine Terrell?
It's actually Terrell. So it's Kat _ Terrell. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct you there.
It's okay. Sorry. You should have sent me the little pronunciation.
like a media guy.
Yeah.
They already follow you. Like, trust me. All of our listeners follow you. I
don't know. People get so fed up with how much I tweet. They like probably unfollow me in disgust and then like refollow me once.
I feel like you don't even.
I still followed you when you were covering the Bengals. Like
I know. I couldn't believe I did not get blocked.
Unfollowed.
Yeah, I was like,
I thought about it. I
felt honored. I was like, he didn't block me or unfollow me.
I thought about it for a minute, but I was like, you know what? She'll be back.
She's coming back. Hey, they always come back. And I did. It only took me 3 years.
It's home. So anyway, you don't have to follow Katherine because everyone always follow her. But thank you so much for coming on. And we'll see how the season goes. I guess. Another episode of #Saints for the podcast done. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at @thatboywolf. Don't follow me; it's pointless. And what's that? We're out.
Already blocked.
Already done.
O'Reilly. You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge, just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
Oh,